We'll kick things off with Sam Bell with the Washington Post. Sam, please go ahead.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Hey, Sam. How you doing?
Doing good. I just wanted to kind of ask you about your camp philosophy. Just kind of what do you usually look to focus on during training camp? I know this will be a little bit different headed into a shortened season, but just as a coach, what's your general philosophy with this?
Going into camp especially in this situation with a new team, I think it's important to, one, make sure your team's getting up to speed with regard to the pace of the game and the competitiveness of the game. But also being a new coach, it's important systematically to try and right from the get-go put things down into place. And the difference I think from this year's camp to most camps that start in September is that you're not going to have any exhibition games, and we'll try to recreate that with some scrimmages. We got 2 scrimmages set for the schedule that we have in camp, and we'll use those scrimmages to play real game situations, and then also special situations that might happen on the ice, power play, penalty kill, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and we'll try to make it as real and as lifelike as we can. But there's time, even though it's a shortened camp, there's time to get things in place. I've been in situations where I've taken over in the middle of the year. I've gone over to coach a world championship team, and it's literally one practice and you get going. So, there's a lot of work to be done, but I know everybody's eager to get back to work as well.
Thank you. We'll go to Scott Abraham with ABC7. Scott, please go ahead.
Hey, Lavi, good to see you. Happy early New Year. Obviously, with this shortened camp and kind of condensed season, everything's sped up a little bit. What's the biggest challenge for you as a coach to kind of get everybody on the same page in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging. I mean, I just getting in and getting with the players. A lot of times when when season's about to happen, you can't work with the players, but you share the same facilities. So there's some friendly conversations that take place, and just not being in there and being a part of the day-to-day makes it a little bit more difficult. But again, I think the challenges of just getting a new group on the same page and really working towards that identity and what you want your team to play with, that'll be one of the more challenging pieces to this. Usually the players are in great shape. They work out so hard in the summers now. They eat the right things. They train the right way. And so oftentimes they're ready to go. But, to take us as a group that is learning a new system and get us all on the same page and playing at a pace where you are playing that identity the way you want, at the speed that you want, I find those issues to be the top of my priority list.
And with this condensed schedule, a lot of back-to-backs this year.
Yeah.
And it's very good to have kind of 2 good goaltenders. And obviously with the Henrik situation, very tough from a human element. How do you view your goaltending situation going forward here in such this condensed schedule?
Yeah. You're right. It was tough with Henrik. Just speaking with him, I know he was really excited about being part of the Capitals family and coming in here. And he had this new sense of passion for hockey because he's coming to a different team and a different organization, and we certainly wish him the best. But we've got pieces that we're really excited to get into training camp and see with the goaltenders, the young goaltenders that we have in place, as well as bringing in a guy like Craig Anderson and his experience and adding him to the mix. I think it's going to be a great battle through the course of the training camp. And like probably a lot of the questions that I might answer, there's going to be an evaluation period that goes on with this, and then we're going to have to make decisions. But we still have a lot of confidence in the people that we have in place, even though Henrik won't be with us.
Thank you. We'll go to Tarek Obashir with the Athletic.
Hi, Peter. Just to follow up on Scott's question there, would it be fair to say that, the way you're looking at this goaltending situation is, Sammy is, going to play a lot, and then it's, Anderson, Vitek, and Phoenix kind of battling for 2 more spots?
Yeah, certainly, Samsonov, being part of the team, having a little bit of experience, his pedigree of who he is. We're excited to get him back and healthy and to show what he can do in training camp. And it's a big step for those young goaltenders. But again, we do have confidence in them to go into camp and to battle it out a little bit. I think adding a guy like Anderson, he kind of the same way we're talking about Henrik. He comes to a new organization and something to prove and fighting for space and fighting for the crease. I love that. And so I think it'll be a really good battle with the players that were here and in place, and then adding a guy like Anderson.
Thank you. We'll go to JJ Reagan with NBC Sports Washington.
Hey, Peter. So one new wrinkle this year is going to be the taxi squad. What are your initial thoughts on how you're going to manage having a few extra players on the roster to play with this year?
I actually like it. To have the ability to utilize this group and have them nearby for whatever pops up. You had mentioned earlier in the interview, it's going to be a hard fought sprint to the end. And typically that can shed some wear and tear on the team. So I think the taxi squad is going to be a big part and an integral part of any team's success, to be able to come in off the taxi squad and to contribute to the big club. I think is going to be really important. It's going to be that type of a year. So the fact that these guys are here and they're part of the group, available to the group when needed, I think that could be a bonus for every team.
Thank you. We'll go to Mike Vogel with Washington Capitals.
Hey, Peter. Obviously, you've taken over teams before mid-season, as you alluded to, and in the off-season as well. Just wondering what your process has been like here. It's been close to 3 months, a little over 3 months, I guess, since you took this job. What have you done over that period of time to acclimate yourself, not just to the area, but to the guys who are going to be on your team, your staff, et cetera? How's that process gone for you?
I'll tell you, it's been a different time. Typically, you would have moved in at some point in the summer. You would have had access to the rink, and you would have had access to physically be with the coaches. And we've worked quite a bit through Zoom, communication with Brian, communication with the trainers. Who's allowed in the rinks and who's not allowed in the rinks has played a part, and it's kind of separated everybody. And so training camp will really be the first time that we get together as a group, and we're able to start moving forward. But, with regard to I know that our staff has been working hard, the staff that has been allowed into the practice facility to help these guys prepare and, offer up what they might need on a daily basis as they prep for the season. They've done a tremendous job. The players are all here. Coaches are here. We're waiting to go and get in and be a part of it. And, we'll be ready to go. Like you said, I always say there's real no advantage or disadvantage if everybody's dealing with the same thing. So it's just something that we're going to have to deal with. We're going to be on the fly as soon as we go from January 3 on. And before you know it, we'll be playing the first game. But I think everybody's really looking forward to it. I've talked to the players, Zoom calls with the coaches to go through the systems, videos being sent out, PowerPoint presentations being sent out, just staying on top of everything that the players are trying to go through right now with their conditioning and getting here and getting them up to speed as much as we can. We're doing the best we can, not being able to physically be around them yet.
Tom Galletti, NHL.com.
Hi, Peter. Just wondering what you'll do with your roster for camp. Are you going to go with the full 36 skaters and whatever number of goalies, and will you split into two groups as far as practices and stuff like that?
Well, it's got to be two groups. We had a good discussion about it, and I think it's going to be really important to get to our team and to really work with them and take this time that we're allotted in training camp and to get everybody on the same page. But there will be interaction between the two groups with regard to with regard to scrimmages and how we move. Everybody's going to be getting the same information. somebody that plays the taxi squad or may start on the taxi squad, they're going to have to be up to speed on what we're trying to do in the offensive zone or the neutral zone or the power play. So there'll be a teaching period that goes on, but I feel like it's really important that we get to a group of guys that we believe will be here to start the season and have them start to work together as a team. But with regard to the whole group, everybody will be getting the information. We will be doing the same thing with both groups for the duration of the training camp.
Thank you. We'll go to Ben Raby with Caps Radio 24/7.
Hey, Peter. Thanks for doing this. I want to ask you about an individual, if I may. I know you've been asked about coaching Alex Ovechkin. Want to ask you about Evgeny Kuznetsov. A whole lot of skill, very high ceiling. He's acknowledged he's battled some inconsistency over the past couple of years. What are you looking forward to in working with him, and how can you try to bring out the best in him in the coming season?
Yeah, I mean, I've had conversations with him, and again, it's been a bit different and not your normal, not being in there and being around the guys, even though we can't work with them, but just to say hi or to move with them. Everything's kind of been over the phone. And so, for a new coach, not just talking about him, but talking about all the players, for a new coach coming in, your job is really try to get the most out of the team, the most out of each player. And so that won't change from Kuzi or Alex Ovechkin or whoever you might talk about. That's the responsibility of the coach, is to try to push guys to be their best, try to push your team to be their best. Being a new coach and never have worked with really any of these players for the most part, I got a chance to work with TJ a little bit in the Olympics, but it was just a short stint. I'm really excited to go in there. It's fresh. It's fresh for me. It'll be fresh for them. There's, as from my standpoint and where I sit right now, there hasn't been anything with any of the players, good or bad. There hasn't been inconsistencies or consistency problems. I'm the new coach going in there, and it's my job to get these guys up to speed, to get them on an identity, to get them to play hard for each other, to play hard for the team, for the city. And for me, that's exciting. So I can't wait to work with him. You brought his name up, so I can't wait to work with him, and I'm looking forward to the year.
Thank you. We'll go to Steve Wina with AP.
Hey, Peter, thanks for doing this. It seems like with the protocols this year that all coaches are going to have to wear masks behind the bench. How much different is that going to be for you?
Probably be good for me. Nobody will see what's coming out of my mouth. So my mother will be happy, I think. These are just, everybody's dealt the same hand. And so, we'll deal with it. If that's the protocol and those are the rules, and we'll respect them and we'll get it done. But, it's just a different time that we're living in right now. I'm just excited to be back. I'm sure everybody's just excited to be back. If my price that I have to pay is wearing a mask behind the bench, I'll gladly do it.
Go to Heather McDonough with NBC4, please.
Hey, Peter, kind of in a similar vein to some of the other questions, how would you normally, when you take a new job, get to know some of these guys? I mean, would you take an Alex Ovechkin to dinner and kind of see what he's about, what makes him tick, and obviously, and how different, has that been? If you could share just maybe any of the conversations, again, not getting too personal, but
it's a good point. It's just completely different. Typically a coach would be here a month before the season starts and in the rink. And while you're not allowed to work with the players, and I respect the rules, you see them and you bump into them, and you may see them around the rink, or you could go to dinner, or you could sit down with them at breakfast and just talk and get to know them a little bit. And so some of the phone, some of it has just been through phone calls. I've talked to Alex probably three or four times over the phone. He texted me the other night, and so he wanted to know if I wanted to go to dinner, and I said, I'm quarantining right now, I can't go. And so that's just a typical thing that would have been a chance to maybe grab Alex and just go out and just talk a little bit. I know him, and I know him, he knows me, but we don't really know each other that well. And so that would have been a great opportunity, but it wasn't able to happen. So I told him as soon as I'm clear from the protocol and the procedures from the NHL, I'd love to go get a bite to eat. So it'll happen, but it's made it a little bit more difficult.
And how important is that for you to get to know these guys, you know, off the ice as a new coach?
Yeah, I mean, it'll happen. It's going to happen. And again, everybody, you're right. The challenge is that I'm the new coach. Somebody coming into a team that they've coached for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, they've already established some relationships. But I also look at that as it could be a good thing or a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're down a road with a player in a positive way or a negative way, or maybe they're down a road with you as the coach. And so everything is fresh and it's new, and that's what makes it exciting. Everybody's excited to get going. Everybody's excited to learn a new system. I'm excited to teach a system that they haven't seen before, and really work on, again, just the identity and being able to play that in a ferocious way. So for me, I'm excited to do it, but it's made it just a little bit more challenging.
Thank you.
We'll go back to Tariq O'Bashir with The Athletic.
I was curious, how are you going to handle things within your staff? You know, like what does Blaine handle? What's Kevin handle? What does Arnie handle?
Yeah, a good question. Maybe you might ask me to start back when I first got the job, and I said, well, I'm going to sort all that out, and I don't even think Kevin was maybe on board yet, and now he is. I feel really fortunate and comfortable to be with the guys that I'm working with. And you know, one thing about where I'm at right now is, I've got some familiarity with Kevin McCarthy, but I also love learning from new coaches, and you're constantly learning and you're constantly listening. And, you know, last couple of years in Nashville, I got to work with a young coach in Dan Muse. He had very little experience, but man, was he a great coach. But my point on that is I want to learn too. And I want somebody to come in with their ideas and their thoughts and let me learn from what their experiences are and what they have to share. So, you know, for me, Scott O'Neill I evaluated everything. I talked to the coaches, evaluated the staff. I thought Scott O'Neill did a terrific job with the penalty kill last year, assisting with the forwards, working on the skill level of the individual players from a forward standpoint. And I didn't see any reason to make a change. He's been a head coach. He's got a lot of experience. I spoke with coaches that he's worked with before, and they all had great things to say about him. I knew Scott from a little bit from when I played, and I'm really looking forward to working with him. You know, Blaine has he's been in charge of the power play for a long time, and you know, last year the power play dipped just a little bit from where it had been. I think that happens on every team. With regard to any stat that you might have, there might be a year where you're not in the top 10 anymore, and maybe you had been in the top 10. But evaluating everything that Blaine has done here, he's been in charge of one of the top and most lethal units in the National Hockey League. And for me, I didn't see any need to make a change there. When I met with him and he talked about the things that he wanted to change and wanted to correct, I had full confidence that he was going to be able to do that. And so I didn't see a need to make a change there. There was one spot that was left open, and, you know, I had talked to Kevin McCarthy about it. And when he found out I was going to be in Washington, you know, he really wanted to come back and be part of it and take another run at a team that might have a chance at a championship. And so Kevin will be responsible for the defense. He's responsible for, along with me, the defensive part of the game. And, you know, for the first 5 years in Nashville, we were the #1 team goals against average in the league. And he was a big part of that. He has a really good handle on handling the defense and during game situations and pairings and matchups and how he goes about his business. I think he's a coach that's been around a long time. He's been to the Cup Finals 4 times, and he has a way of working on skill development. He has a way of teaching players, veteran players and young players. And so to be able to get him back and part of this staff, I'm excited about that as well. I got a chance to talk to Scott Murray, the goalie coach, and I was really excited. I know that he comes from working with Mitch Korn. My last goaltending coach did the same, and I have a lot of respect for that line that comes from Mitch to the younger players and the younger coaches that he works with. And so I was excited to talk to him about the job, and he's going to remain in place as well. I think we've got some of the best video coaches here as well. So for me, the staff stays in place because I really like the staff. I thought that it was going to be a good staff. Adding Kevin McCarthy, I think, makes it stronger.
Thank you. We'll go back to Mike Vogel with Caps.com.
Peter, I wanted to ask a little more granularly about the taxi squad. Obviously, it's in place to guard against illnesses and whatnot that may happen over the course of a season. Do you envision, though, that, I mean, you're going to have a pretty good group of NHL caliber defensemen there. Do you envision maybe using some of those guys toward their skills? Maybe you got a guy who's, pretty good on the PK and you're playing on a given night, a really strong power play. And then maybe the next night you want a first pass guy, or just given the way the schedule works out, do you envision, maybe more mixing and matching than meets the eye there?
It could be. I also think with regard to the taxi squad, you can pull players based on what the position that comes out of the lineup. And, it might not necessarily be the ranking of which you have the players in the taxi squad, but if one guy was definitely a penalty killer and you needed to come in and kill penalties, and the other one in the taxi squad was power play, I think you have a luxury of looking at your taxi squad and possibly based on injury or illness, making those decisions based on what's coming out of the lineup. When it comes to replacing players, even from the minors, like I was never one to take the leading scorer in the minors, call them up and put them on the fourth line. If somebody deserved the call up and they were the top scorer in the American Hockey League, or if they were a top scorer on their team, I would want to take them up and put them in a position to be successful, not necessarily change my whole lineup just to put them on the fourth line because you may or may not trust them. I think that players need to be put in a position of strength and a position to be successful. So I definitely think that you could look at the taxi squad under those parameters where maybe you're handpicking what you might need for an individual game. And again, I do think that the taxi squad is going to be important. I think it's just a lot of games. It's a lot of games, and it's just slightly more, I think, than every other day. And it's gonna have some wear and tear on some teams. And so I really feel like that taxi squad is important.
Okay, we have time for two more questions. Tom Galletti with NHL.com.
Peter, just for you, it's been almost a year since your last game. How much are you eager to get in there and get to work on whatever day you're allowed on the ice? Monday, I guess it is.
Yeah. I said to my wife when I left Florida, I'm anxious. I don't want to say nervous, but I'm anxious. It's been like you said, it's been a year, and I've been off before. I've been off for 6 months or 7 months or 8 months. So there's been different timelines. I think that this might be the longest that I've been off. Maybe one other time I was pushing a year. And what I always find is that it's kind of like riding a bicycle, and the anxiousness is a good thing. It's like, when you're going out for a game, when I used to be a player or players today, there's an anxiousness about it. You're going out to play a game 7 in the playoffs. Nobody should not have butterflies in their stomach and be on edge. But when the puck drops, or when things crack on January 4th on the first day when we're on the ice, I think it's like riding a bike, or I found it to be that way. And so I'm really excited I'm anxious. I'm excited to get going, and looking forward to it. So I've been off for a while. I'm looking to shake the rust off pretty quick and get back at it.
Okay, thank you. Last question will come from Samantha Powell at the Washington Post.
Yeah, I think you had quickly mentioned that all players were back in Washington. Are they all quarantining, or are they all expected to start camp on time next week?
I believe everybody's expected to start on time. Yeah, from when it got announced to coming back, I think everybody was on different time frames. There were some guys that were here already. They had their kids in school, and so they were here. And They were already being tested on a regular basis to get into the practice facility just for their summer workouts. But yeah, everybody's here right now. There's a lot that are still going through the quarantining period. And so everything is good to go for right now for January 3rd, first meeting.